Okay, in the previous section we had a little look at sort of a quick look at paper space layouts, doing the dimensions, but really only had a kind of a teaser of it. In this section we're going to delve into it a lot deeper. Now if you look at section 6 page 5, there's the very first page, there's a long explanation of paper space, model space. So if I just give you kind of a brief overview of that, it talks about tiled viewports and floating viewports. Tiled viewports we looked at before, and I give you my sort of opinion for what it's worth on tiled viewports in model space. So if I open up the viewports here, you'll see we get a series of tiled because they're one on top of the other, like tiles. If I click OK on that, you see we get 4 viewports, and my opinion on that was that why would you bother splitting up the screen size? I mean, it's small enough, and you buy a large monitor and then you go make it smaller again, the drawing area, by tiling the viewports in model space. Now in model space all viewports can only be tiled, so one on top of the other. You can't change shapes or anything like that. You can't make up your own little shapes of viewports, and they're kind of stuck one on top of the other. In paper space, we'll see that you can have what's called floating viewports, and they can be any shape or size. You can move, copied, scaled, stretched. You can have as many of them as you need, and this is controlled by a system variable called tile mode. So I type in tile mode and hit return. You see the current value for tile mode is 1, which means it's the viewports are tiled because we're in model space. Obviously enough, I just showed you a second ago 4 tiled viewports. If I type 0, watch what happens when I hit return. So I changed tile mode system variable to 0. It jumps across to layout 1. If I left click on this little model tab and I check the tile mode system variable again, you see it's gone back to 1. So you don't really need to remember the tile mode system variable. Type in 0, come back here. Because by clicking on this, you're effectively changing the tile mode system variable. So clicking on model, I've just changed the system variable tile mode back to 1. Now it's 0. Also down here, you'll notice this little icon down here on the status bar. When I click on model, that changes to model, and when I click on layout, it changes to paper. So letting us know we're in model or paper space. If you can't see this on the screen, you come all the way over here to the right hand side and left click on this little black arrow. There's a full list of buttons and icons that you can turn on here. Just make sure this one's on, paper model. So you see I turn it off and left click on it to turn it on. Just make sure that's on so you can actually see it. So you got that little button down there on that. So if I come across here, model, and if I left click on this model, it'll actually jump me to paper space as well. Okay, so that's that little model icon. Just on the little layout tabs here, if they're not visible on your drawing, if I right click on this, you can see I can actually get a little context menu coming up, and it hide layout and model tabs. Left click on that, it closes. Then another little icon appears down here, and if I right click on that, it lets me display model and layout tabs again. So you can hide them and have it down here, or you can display them. Okay. Also I've got a little, I'll keep them displayed for now for handiness, for quick access, but you can also actually, quick layouts here, you can come along here with this one, so you don't necessarily need it turned on, and you can access your layouts from down here. So we can kind of click on that, you get layout 1, layout 2, and back to model space here. So whichever you kind of like. You can pin this one open as well by doing that, so if you're kind of accessing them and flicking between a few for a while, you can kind of leave it pinned open. Okay, and that's that. So I just close that down again. So that's a quick view layouts as well that's available there. I mean, try a few of them, and I kind of like this. I like the idea of that quick layouts icon. It kind of frees up a bit more space here, and only when I need it, it pops up. So I kind of like that. It's a new feature in the last couple of releases of AutoCAD, so it's quite a nice idea. Okay, so that's our tile mode system variable. So you can see we can kind of flick between layers. So if I flick here again, tile mode is now set to off. But also as well, you see I'm in paper space here. We've got a little rectangle here, and if I turn on the properties on the properties palette, you see it's telling me this is an actual viewport. So that's your first look at a viewport here. So let me just hit escape there. If I double left click within this viewport area, so anywhere within this little area here, watch what happens. It highlights, and down here, more importantly, it tells me I'm in model space. So if I draw something in here, and if I double left click, I'm back out here, and I go back here and do zoom all, and I get the object drawn in here. If I decide to modify it here, add a little line to it, come back here, see I get it changed here as well. So I can actually access model space from in here as well. There's no need for me to flick back to the model tab. So if I'm kind of working on a layout and I need to change something quickly, I can just go, oh, didn't really want that line in, so I'll delete that, and I can modify it without having to kind of come back out and go to model space. I can kind of change it here because effectively I'm actually in model space here anyway. Okay, so accessing the model, the viewports is really just a matter of double clicking and double clicking. You can also, if I come down here when I'm in layout 1 or paper space, I can double click here and it'll access the model space for me there as well. So a number of different ways. Again, I don't know if you kind of noticed or not, but we've got a new little icon down here to denote that we're actually in paper space. So this little triangle with the X, Y tells me I'm in paper space. Double click on model space and we get our standard 3D icon telling us the X and Y directions, or standard 3D UCS icon. So a couple of little new icons for you to look at as well, just to let you know whether you're in model space or paper space. And you can see it's very easy to access them. A double click and a double click gets me in and out of model space, paper space. Okay, so that's it. That's your first little kind of introduction, if you like. And as it says at the bottom, although these concepts may at first seem a little difficult to grasp, the following ongoing exercise has been designed as an introduction to the use of model space and paper space layouts. It involves the creation of different views in paper space, and hopefully you kind of see it's not as difficult as it might first sort of appear. Okay, so that's the first little kind of look, and just making sure that you're set up and you kind of know where you're accessing all these little buttons and you have everything turned on. Okay.